This right here is the worst published game I've ever played. Looks half decent, right? Firefly, shiny dice, get a crew, get a mission, keep flying. But we will learn that this is a dice rolling, push your luck game without much push your luck. So here's a quick rundown of how to play Firefly Shiny Dice. You're all piloting your own copy of the Serenity, a spaceship in the Firefly universe. You're trying to get the most victory points by the end of 3 rounds by smuggling cargo or by completing missions. And this is all done through rolling these 15 dice and seeing what happens. Yeah, so you just roll those dice, organize them, then you can re-roll some of them. After that, you draw that mission, which is what you can fulfill to get points. It just gets completed if you have those types of dice. You don't have to spend the dice to complete them. Next, the foes go, which are these black colored dice you rolled before, and then they can knock out some of your crew members or capture cargo. You use your crew member dice, which all have special abilities, to kill the foe dice. If you kill all the foes, you survive the round, and also get supply cards for those dice you have. If you don't kill all the foes, you're screwed, and you lose all the points you got that round. If you did kill all the foes, you can push your luck and go on a whole nother round, grabbing all the dice except for your KO'd crew members. See how you have less dice now? Or you can just lay low, secure your VP, and then you're done for the turn. Once you're done with your turn, you just pass this gob of dice to your opponent, and they do the same thing. You play 3 rounds of passing around these dice, and then you just tally up your points. You got your VP cards, and then also your cargo, which is worth 50 points each. Whoever has the most points wins the game. So before we start delving into what the hell is wrong with this game, let's give you guys something to work with some pros. First off, component-wise, this game is pretty good. You get a bunch of dice in this dice game. The dice are all great quality. They have different engravings, multicolored, and feel great to roll. 15 is a lot to hold in one hand, so you just cup it like this. Ends up rolling pretty well. And you hear that? Not that one, this one. It's going on this rubber playmat. This game comes with playmats that are basically like mouse pads, have a grippy back, and have really clear sections to organize your dice. The game is packing components you'd expect from a polished small game, like stand-up player aids, tons of mission cards to get different points from, and then everything fits in the box really nicely. As for gameplay, yeah, there's some things that are cool, I guess. When you roll those dice, different results correspond to characters in the show, and the abilities make pretty much sense to their characters. So you can use the captain of the ship, Mal, for 2 abilities, but then he can only attack his kryptonite, the seductive Saffron, who is his lipstick mouth foe. Then you got Jane, the fighter who can just destroy an entire foe at an extra cost. You got Zoe, who is really well rounded to attack anything, and you even have a doctor who can bring back people for being KO'd. There's even using this priest dude, who is represented by this book, and if you use enough books, you find safety in salvation and you just squirrel your VP and end your turn safely. In total, there are 9 different crew members you can roll, which lets you really mix and match options every turn. Also, thank goodness this game's time length doesn't drag. Because you're not allowed to roll expended dice when you decide to push your luck, that means you'll just run out of fuel at some point to keep taking turns, so you gotta pull out and play it safe. We'll get back to this though. This does mean that the amount of rolling has a clear end, and at lower player counts, it does run true to its 30 minutes, or maybe even less once you get it down. When we look at the limited good we have so far, this game does get a space cowboy mission thing decently for just being a dice game. You face missions while flying in space, and then you can lay low to play it safe, cash in all your points, or keep flying like the risky cowboy you are. When going to the dice, how about rolling a bunch of supplies? This means you'll get a ton of cargo if you succeed. More supplies means that you have less crew members on your ship. As a short dice game, Firefly Shiny Dice means you'll be rolling a ton of dice to do somewhat thematic missions in this limited Firefly universe. But that's it for the pros. Now it starts getting fun when we get to the cons. Yes, now it's time for the cons. Finally. Right off the bat, this game is really hard to learn using the included rulebook. It's consistently unclear on explaining things. Like how about faux dice, which are a big part of the game, these black faux dice. And it doesn't explain what they are, but tells you to start moving them around. We could go on and on about this rulebook. It doesn't have any diagrams of gameplay, it doesn't have diagrams for setup, there's no FAQ. To actually help us understand how to play this game, we used a very handy tutorial from the designer himself, which is pretty much 100% necessary to start playing. So make sure, if you want to play this game, that you have a web browser on hand. But even after you've learned the game, keep that rulebook in front of you because this game throws a lot of jargon at you. This is in the missions that you need to constantly be defining because the player aids don't cover them. There's things like sabotage, escape, or shiny that correspond to missions. And so the game really slows down when you have to constantly flip through the rulebook to see what that means. Why not put an explanation of the jargon on the mission card itself? There's so much room. Before getting into gameplay, what about these? These player mats. These are pretty darn cool, right? But there's only 2 of them for a game that's for 2 to 5 players. There's not even cardboard mats for the people who don't have these. If they wanted to stick with this mousepad route, they should have just doubled down, had one big nice one, and had you pass around that single one because, spoiler, this game is solitaire anyways. Gameplay cons, let's go. So you're a couple of space cowboys going through space, planning for missions to get points. But there's a couple of weird things going on here. To blast us off, you draw a mission card after you decide to re-roll your dice. After. So you can't plan for whatever the heck mission you're supposed to be doing. If you get the right one, cool, it lined up with your dice. If not, well, nothing you can do about that, didn't line up with your dice. This is such a crazy misstep in planning a game that I don't know how this came through. I don't know how this got published. But fortunately, the designer has stated himself on BGG that you should probably be drawing the missions before you reroll your dice. We would take this another level and let you draw 2 missions and then pick one to give you at least some control on what you want to do. Another problem with the missions is that the ones that benefit you feel extremely weak. As we already covered, you can't plan for them, so there's many you just won't end up accomplishing, but you're not really losing out on much because their payouts are pretty mediocre. They oftentimes give you a couple of cargo or 200 VP. But if you kill all 3 foes on your ship, which you have to do anyways to keep any points, you're getting 300 VP. Why is the survival payout of the game higher than the mission payouts? Then again though, if you made the good payouts better, that really screws over the people who don't draw those good missions, so we can't see a clean way to fix missions without overhauling the cards entirely. Now here is a big fundamental problem with this game. That for a push your luck game, it doesn't really have push your luck. It doesn't really have that. Okay, let's break it down. You have a guaranteed enemy of 5 foes, and each of the foes will cancel one of your dice. So in the first round, you have 5 dice to use after that cancellation. Then you gotta KO some of your own dudes to kill foes. What are you left with? Not that many more dice for the next round. So, okay, sure, say you push again, and okay, let's cheat the roll a little here to get the very specific unlikely roll needed to win. Okay, cool, yeah, we won. But look at the dice. Do we have any dice left for a 3rd round? In almost all cases, no. Look, if you want to be crazy and roll these 2 dice, they're gonna get eaten up immediately by the enemies. You just die. Basically, if you want a sliver of a hope to survive for 3 rounds, you have to continuously roll almost all badgers in the 5 dice every single round. Which really isn't going to happen because they're only on 2 sides of 6-sided dice. This makes the risk-taking like you pull out after the first round, which is pretty lame, or you're forced to pull out after the second one because there's basically no chance you can survive a third round, which is super duper lame. Let's pile this onto some of the special mission abilities, of which some of force you to keep flying, or force you to lay low and pull out. And remember, these missions are utterly random. They happen to you after you decide to reroll your dice. So the game just kind of decides for you, well, now you're getting this mission, you have to lay low. Or you're getting that mission, you have to keep flying. There goes the whole push your luck because the game pushes this onto you. It tells you what to do. If we try to fix this push your luck system, there needs to be something to really give you hope when you're gambling. How about creating missions that will help you get your dice back? How about a really unlikely roll, like rolling 4 of a kind, and if you do so, you get to revive a crew member from the KO box. So this game doesn't have the push your luck element. Unfortunately, the rest of the decision making is pretty basic and kind of plays itself too. This is kind of crazy to hear because, well, there's 15 dice, 3 colors, and then you have all these special abilities that you can use. But when you actually get into it, it's always the case that you're going to re-roll dice that don't do damage to enemies. And then guys on average just do 2 damage to foes, so you're just deciding which symbols you really want to move. There are some special abilities like the Strawberry Girl who can kill a unit and move dice around, or River who actually kills 1 of each foe, which is giving you up to 3 damage. But mostly, you're just seeing what 3 to 4 dice you want to use to kill off 5 foes every round. If you have the right rolls, you spend 3 dice, kill off the 5 foes. If you don't have the right rolls, you're screwed, you lose the round. Or how about this? One of the big decision-making parts is to re-roll your dice, right? So you can look at it, I really want to re-roll this, and maybe I'll re-roll that one. So you spend that effort, see what happens, and then you can draw a mission card that says Sabotage, which means you re-roll all your dice immediately. So all your effort to do that just went down the drain. The whole plays itself element wouldn't be as prominent if the game wasn't this complicated. It has so many symbols you can move around, so you want to imagine that that means some type of nuanced gameplay loop. If the game was just simpler with less dice, say less than 10 dice to manage, and cut the symbols in half, maybe the whole gameplay itself element wouldn't be as frustrating. Currently, you roll a bunch of dice, spend some time to organize them, and then eventually it can dawn upon you that you've done all that work to not be able to kill 1 foe, and then you lose everything. This removes the tension that people normally like in dice rolling, where you roll the dice and then get excited for the results. In Firefly Shiny Dice, there's just so many symbols throughout the 15 dice that there's a disconnect from the true results compared to the mess of dice you just rolled and now you have to sort out. Now remember how I brought up the solitaire aspect on why you only get 2 of these mats? Well, hopefully you've thought about that solitaire because there's nowhere in this review that I mentioned player interaction. This game has the non-conflict to the utmost extreme. There's only one other thing that ever affects your opponent. That is, if you roll 4 of one kind of dice, then they lose 100 points, which is just 1 point. And you can probably just deduct that from their stash when they go to the bathroom or something. The gameplay loop of one guy rolling all of his 15 dice, while everyone else just has to watch him organize the dice, go through the 4 phases of a turn to move around their ship. This is the definition of terrible downtime. There's nothing to think about when it's not your turn. There's no cards to plan with, no alternate victory paths, and you can't even goad your friend on to push their luck because that's really limited in this game. Because of this being a solitaire fest, this game should not really be played with more than 2 people. Oh look, and then you don't have to pass the player mats around. So I only have 1 die left, or 2 die left to kill 5 things.
Oh god,
yeah, it's just like,
okay.
Yep, so I died.
Game over?
No, unfortunately no. I can't do anything with this.
Cool.
We're gonna get through a game, okay? We're gonna finish the game.
We are.
Oh goodness, we made it to the end of the cons. There's just one more left, and that is if for some reason, if you decide to play this game seriously and want to compare points after the end of the game, if there's a tie, you're screwed. There's no tiebreaker rule at all. A reasonable tiebreaker would just be whoever has the most cargo wins the game if there's a tie. Bam, that was easy. Just made a tiebreaker rule. And of course, the criticisms don't quite end there. We got the nitpicks. It's clear this game already kind of blows, so we'll be fast with this. The first one is this player aid, which is jam-packed with info. It's a lot, but it's pretty straightforward to understand. The problem is that this is jam-packed with info and is meant to be blocking your points. So to read the text on the bottom, you have to put your face right on the table. And you can't pick it up because that would expose your points. It's kind of interesting how they didn't have another player aid to make this less crammed. Well, you know how we said this game should be played with 2 people? Then you have the extra player aids, and I guess you could just hold this and read that instead of reading this. Onto the components, some of the cards look really similar. The money card graphic design makes it really hard to read the text. Like, can you even see what that says with the blending in the background? Then we got the cargo cards having the same problem. They're divided into 1s, 2s, and 3s, but from afar, they look the same. Give us some outlining or clear numbers. Actually, speaking of the cargo supply things, this mechanic feels really dry. This one is borderline cons, but since this game is so random anyways, I'll just keep this in the nitpicks. See, you always get 100 points per 2 supply cards you have. That's it. That's always it. Supply cards don't do anything else, nor is there any way to increase their scoring value. Why not make the supply cards scale? Like the more supply cards you have, the more points you get. Maybe 5 supply is 300 points, and then 10 supply is 1,000 points. That would give you at least some reason to start rerolling dice to get the supply. The last nitpick is that many of these missions just aren't thematic at all. Like, yeah, they have art or more like clips from the show, with dialogue from the show, but they don't really make sense a lot of the time. How about this one? He takes so much looking after. Immediately do a damage to a foe, and then once you complete it, do another damage. What? Or how about this one? Wash is playing with his dinosaurs. We will call it This Land. Complete it, get 2 supplies. What? So now it's time for our recommender score, where we bring together those pros and cons. Okay, who am I kidding? Mostly cons in this case, for this game. So, Firefly Shiny Dice is gonna get a 2 out of 10. I know, right? It's only terrible. It is only terrible. It surprised me, actually. For all of its questionable components or basement low stakes decision making, it still works. It's still a game that functions. There's nothing utterly broken about it. You could sit down, chuck some dice, and have a definite, albeit very random feeling, winner. So, we here at Shelfside are still chasing after that perfect Moby Dick 1 out of 10. That we can say is the absolute lowest rating possible to give you a comparison for all the good scores we give on this channel. So if anyone knows about any games that are 1 out of 10, let us know, we'll put them to the test. So now back to why you should not seriously buy or play this game. Oh, actually that rulebook is gonna be a turnoff, which actually might be a good discouragement so you don't play this game. Like, if you look at this player aid, that is the amount of annoying rules you should expect for a game where the actions just mostly decide themselves. The premise, get a crew, get a mission, keep flying, is very enticing. And you technically have all these things. Rolling dice to assemble your crew, top deck a mission, very minimal push your luck, and there ends up being no real weight to your actions. Push your luck games tend to be rather simple, so you can goad each other on easily, and you have a clear expectation of the risk you're facing. Let's compare it to Deep Sea Adventure, where the better treasure is deeper in the ocean, but the deeper you go, the more likely you are to drown. Or how about Inking Gold, where if you're the only one left in the expedition, when everyone else pulled out, you get all of the rewards on cards. See how these games have player interaction combined with fun risk-taking? In Shiny Dice, no one is linked in any meaningful way, which makes it solitaire. And the random mission cards never grant you satisfying bonuses, even if you do happen to kill those 5 foes who are always there. So what the hell happened with this game? Why are there only 2 player mats for up to 5 people, and then none of this cool box art is on any of the cards? Apparently, the designer's original idea got overhauled by Upper Deck, where the original intention was to never have these mission cards, so they got added as an afterthought. And then Upper Deck is more known for trading cards in general, so that might have to do with these mats. It really looks like the game's gameplay got hurt to make it more Firefly-like, which hurts the game overall, but may increase sales because it got that Firefly theme. As of now, this game's price has dropped down to $10. So if you really like the aesthetic of these mats, hell, that's 2 decently colored mats for $5 each. My personal score for Firefly Shiny Dice is gonna be a 1 out of 10. It happened. My first 1 out of 10 on this channel. There is nothing in this game that makes me want to keep playing a single game. Sure, it's short, so the agony doesn't get extended, but God, please no, I'm so bored. This was featured on the very first video on our channel, an unboxing. And then when we actually got to read the rulebook, we're like, wait, I don't think we should review this. Fast forward to now, I have finally finished my first actual game of Firefly Shiny Dice, multiplayer and single player. And I was pretty much just bored the whole way through. I'm not a fan of lots of weird jargon and symbols in games, and this has that to the extreme, and the payout is nothing. Like really nothing. You spend all this time to read these different 14 dice abilities just to be top decking missions, of which, by the way, I rarely see completed. Oh, you're finally done? Oh, it's my turn? Okay, well, are we on the 3rd round yet? Can we just finish and play something else? Just roll, yeah. It's like, do you know bad movies like The Room?
Oh, hi, Mark.
Or bad games you grew up playing like Candyland that are utterly mindless? For those, I actually have this weird appreciation for them because they're so bad and so mindless, I can just turn my brain off and laugh with my friends. For Firefly Shiny Dice, sure, it's bad. So as a joke, we should just play it, right? And laugh. But then you actually start playing the game and you roll this gob of dice and then you think, oh, I actually have to think in a game where the outcomes don't really matter. As a Firefly fan, I wholeheartedly don't recommend to play this game, but please give me some ideas on what I should do with this copy. Maybe it does just go in the trash. As always, thanks to our patrons for making videos like this possible. We got John S, Manuel G, Brian C, Clifford H, Aaron W, Max B, Bora, Jeremy MC, Charlie P, Quinton S, Sam S, Travis R, Alma Y, Bombs K, Ryan D, Jeffrey L, Brett M, Matt G, Peter Z, Spitter 71, Ryan J, Brad G, Tiamo Period, Mark A, James M, Evan B, Charles B Jr., Josh J, Baspar Rado, Sophie, Reiner Z, Colin Allen, and Hudson T, and Pearson B. And we got 3 Mad Lads of Cardboard, we got ZL, Jeff L, and this guy, and we got 1 Mad Lady of Cardboard, Amy. Thank you guys so much for making videos where I just bash on games possible. And if you're interested in joining our Patreon, we got the link in the description below. We got playthroughs, lots of fun stuff with you guys. Please let me know if there's any games like Firefly Shiny Dice that are just not good and would be a 1 out of 10. We're looking for that 1 out of 10, guys. Help us find that 1 out of 10. See you guys later. Bye-bye.